All right, and welcome to Market Monday. You are here on the Real Talk podcast. We are talking about this last week in real estate in the Arizona market. So I guess it's Monday, January 29th. Ryan Matthews here with Jeffrey Klein, and we're
Hey
going to
guys,
jump right into what we're seeing in what we've seen in the market this week and kind of rounding out our first month of the year.
let me pose a question to you.
Yeah.
Okay, let me pose a question. Do you think that it is actually because the rates? I mean, they've gone down, right? They've gone from like 8 to 6, okay,
Mm-hmm.
ish, right? We're not lenders, but you're floating somewhere in there. Maybe you're closer to 7. Doesn't matter. It's down from 8, right? That's the big
Right.
thing. Um, so let me pose this question: Is it that market conditions have improved so vastly that buyers are ready to buy, or is it the fatigue of the market that has got them ready to contract, or sellers too, right? Is it the fatigue of the unknown and the fatigue of like this uncertainty, and they're like, well, you know what, this is the market, this is the state it's going to be. We've heard some improvement, we'll go now. Or is it again so again, okay, to rephrase one more time, is it that market conditions have improved so vastly that people are ready to transact, or is it the fatigue from the last 2 years that have people just saying, might as well go, right? What do you think?
I think it's a little both. I
Okay.
think there is some fatigue um, where I think it was fatigue from where it would just fluctuate all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was like rates go up, rates go down, rates go up, rates go down, and there was uncertainty. And now we have certainty, and I think that's where most people feel comfortable. And so, even though, I mean, if when we were going up, when the rates were climbing, and we got to 6, people were still freaked out,
Yeah.
and I think it started to slow down because there was uncertainty of how high it would go. But there
Yeah.
was also people that are like, I'm still buying because it's a good deal. But I think now when we're seeing it down and it hasn't fluctuated, I think I think it's both. And I think maybe just people wanted to do it because the demand never went away. But I
Yeah.
think it's the fatigue of I think it's both. Yeah, I think it's people are like, okay, there's something new. Like we talked about a couple weeks ago on Coffee Talk, where it's like it's normal and it seems kind of just steady. You're like think about it like on a boat.
Yeah.
It's not fun to be on a boat that's like rocking back and forth
Choppy
and
water.
doing
Yeah.
good choppy water. You're just like, you can't plan for anything. You can't sit down and have a dinner or just know like, okay, I can chill and it's gonna be good.
Yeah.
But now it's like, even though the rates are here and it's like it's more expensive than it was a couple years ago, it's what to expect and you're not gonna be like, hey, am I gonna get under contract and not be able to afford it in a month? It's
Yeah.
not that where you don't know. I think there's more of that. Like people can, I guess maybe it's boils down to the confidence, like consumer confidence, and that's I
Yeah.
talk about in the economy all the time. It's like I think people are just I know what to expect and I'm ready to
Yeah.
move.
I think I would agree with you. I think it's kind of both, you know. I was thinking the same thing, is just like, to me, right? There was uncertainty for the last, since 2022, like we talked about, middle of 2022 till about now. I guess probably a
Mm-hmm.
couple months ago. Um, and it's not necessarily that rates improved so much. It's just that everything seems stable, right?
Yes.
It's like that sticker shock went away of like, oh, 8%. Because I mean, dude, I had people, when all of a sudden rates went from 3% to 5%, people were freaking out and they're, oh, no one's going to buy, no one's going to buy. And while that's
Right.
true, it did slow down. I did have people buy at 5, and they were really happy when they saw the rates get to 8% that they had locked in at 5 or 5.5 or
Right.
whatever they were at.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, like, I think it's a combination of both of those things. I think it's just like, again, we've seen some stability where the rates aren't going up and down, like you said. I think that's a big part of it, right? Is that even though the rates haven't improved, it feels stable. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
like there's going to be these giant swings. It doesn't feel like we're going to see these giant rate increases anymore. Um, and so, even though it hurts people's wallets a little bit more, maybe emotionally a little harder to pull the trigger, I think that they are a little bit more invested because, again, it just feels like, okay, we know what to expect. So,
Right. And it so goes back to our like lizard brain,
yeah,
where it's like
yeah,
we're designed to make decisions to keep us safe.
Mhm.
And we know when it doesn't feel safe, like things are going to change, and you feel like it's like the FOMO,
Mhm.
fear of missing out. Like you hit the nail on the head, where if they bought at 5 and they're like, man, the rates are 8, we did great, like that was the best
Mhm.
decision. But I'm sure at the time they were like, oh my gosh, they're 5, like, are we making the right decision? And so I think it really is just, does it feel safe? And I think that's when, if things feel safe and stable, people make moves.
Yeah, agreed.
So what would you say is your biggest take on this week's market?
I think that sentiment is improving. I think that's a big one. Um, I think
Agreed.
that we are going to start to see demand kind of. I mean, we're already seeing demand continue to go up. I think it will continue to go up even more. Um, and then I think it's a big one, dude. Honestly, I don't think that we're going to have crazy things happening. But I guess you know what? There was one anecdote on there that was pretty interesting too. That in Awatuki they had multiple offers on houses, either 475 or 525,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is interesting, right? And so it's like we always thought that those buyers were a little bit more rate sensitive and
Mm-hmm.
clear. I mean, honestly, the anecdote probably proves it. Now that rates are
Yeah,
improving, we're starting to see buyers come out. But it's also interesting that those are the ones that are kind of making the moves right now too. So
yeah,
I say all that to say is like I do think sentiment's improving. I do think that we're going to see a busier next couple of months than we have in a while, and I think it'll be a good time to capitalize on everything that looks like. You know.
I agree. And I mean, it's funny you mention Awatuki, because I'm setting up a search for
Mhm.
Awatuki in a little bit higher range than that. But yeah, there's like what we talked about, where the in out of the market, no man's land. There's a couple that are priced in no man's land, but I think they're the ones kind of testing the market, and I think we're going to see everything starting to adjust, and people are trying to figure it out. But the buyers are out there, and I think you're dead on, where the buyers in that 500, 4, 5, $600,000 range are back. It's
Yeah,
really like where we're seeing those multiple offers. They're just like, we want to be ahead of
being
everybody
early to the
else.
party. Yeah,
Yeah. And I think that's,
yeah,
we're seeing the early birds out. All those people that get iPhones first, they're the ones out here like, okay, the market's coming back, I better buy my house now.
yeah, yeah. I firmly believe that if you miss the last run, right, in the market, you experienced possibly never owning a home, right? I think this might be the second best chance of, if you hadn't bought a home already, right? If you weren't already in a home, I think this might be the next best chance for people to get into a home that don't already own. And same thing for move up clients or move down clients. I think this is going to be one of the best chances over the next probably decade. Conspiracy theories and all that stuff aside, right? Like
Yeah,
there's thoughts of you actually go back and look at like Warren Buffett a decade ago said that if he could, he would put all of his money into single family housing because he thinks that it's going to be really profitable a decade ago, dude. And
yeah,
so the fact that he said that and that BlackRock and State Street and all of these other ones are starting to do the
exactly
Vanguard,
that.
right? Yeah, they're doing exactly that. Like there's a reason. And I say all that to say is like, again, I'm not trying to get conspiratorial here, but like there's a really good possibility that they buy tons of single family homes and they already have,
Hmm.
right? And I think that continues. And again, this could be your best chance to buy a single family residence. Well, I just in general buy a property um, over the next decade because I think that there's going to be some really steep competition from some people who have much, much, much deeper pockets than the majority. So,
Agreed. Follow the big firms, follow the canaries in the coal mine, because they're the ones that are gonna, they see where it's going. Yeah,
and
and
I mean, so 2 points on that. So, one, they're the ones that spend millions and billions of dollars a year on market analytics, right, and figuring out what's going to happen. So, yes, follow them. I would also say follow investors who are seasoned. During the last crash, my uncle's a realtor. He was up in the West Valley. He actually just moved to Florida, but um, he represented clients that were from Canada and from California who were buying. I think at one point he was closing like 10 to 20 deals a month from these investors and they were buying foreclosures, right? They were buying all these houses for 20, 30 grand in the West Valley, right? I think some of them were like, I'm talking, 3,000 square foot houses for 100 grand. The reason I know about this is because my dad and I, we would go in and paint all the houses and get them kind of rent ready We painted
Okay.
every house the same color of brown, and every piece of trim the same color of white, and the
Yep.
stairwells white, like just very, very neutral color palette. Anyway, and so we would do this for him. And so I watched him do that. I also watched him and my aunt, with the help of his father, purchase. I think at one point, they had 20 or they had 30 rentals at one point,
Ooh.
that they had all purchased for pennies on the dollar, right? I think less than 75 grand each, right? Um, and then they ended up selling all of those. They didn't hit the peak, but they started gradually selling these properties off over time. And I think they were down to their last one or two in 2020, maybe
Okay.
2019, and they finally just offloaded them, right? And they could have made more money, but they also quadrupled all of the money that they put in. Basically, that's a pretty good
Yeah.
return on your investment, and you've been
Pretty.
collecting rents the whole time.
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
cash flowing the entire time
Hmm.
and doubling, tripling, quadrupling your money.
Yeah. And so because of that, it's like, follow those people. I am always curious to see what they're going to do, because if they start picking up rental properties, I might follow suit. And because they live in Florida, and where they live is in between Orlando and Tampa, I've heard that
Mm,
that's one of the hottest areas in the market over the next 20 years, or hottest areas in the country over the next 20 years.
interesting.
Um, and honestly, my uncle did property management for a long time. So I might say, hey, what can you find me for super cheap that's a decent rental, and then start throwing some money in Florida and then have him manage it. But
Yeah.
yeah, the idea is that follow the seasoned investors, right?
Watch
Whether
what
they
they're doing.
are, huh?
Yeah. Just watch what the seasoned investors are doing.
Yeah, yeah, whether they are Berkshire Hathaway or Vanguard or State Street, BlackRock, or if they are, people who've done this for many years prior. So
Agreed.
yeah.
I think it'd be interesting. I think, yeah, just overall buyer sentiment, market
Mm-hmm.
sentiment in general
Mm-hmm.
is continuing to just track up,
So,
which is what we've kind of expected. This has been a lively
yes.
Market Monday. We talked about a lot and hope it was powerful for you guys. And we'll continue to be here every Monday. Just give you our weekly update on the market. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.